Good evening, everyone. This video is going to be a trading review and support session for November the 16th, 2022. So let's just kind of start with the what the market was doing when we were opening and on the daily basis, and kind of going on. We're a little bit down, right? This is the day, right? We came up. We've kind of been going back and forth, right? Which has actually made it a little bit interesting. Volume has been okay, and going back and forth, we're able, reasonably well to get some points, and I did fine today. So we're still, the 20-day moving average is coming up. The 50-day is pretty flat. The 200-day is still moving down. The market was kind of rolling over from the London session. So here was about the London Open, and it was kind of coming down. And even though I traded long and short today, about 50-50 actually, it was initially coming down, but it did pop right around the open. Let's see, and then I got some of the points, as you can see here, right? It had kind of bottomed out a little bit right before the open, and popped up some. So we did have some news today. Let me bring that up real quick. And we will have some news tomorrow morning as well. We'll review that real quick as well. So today is Wednesday. And at 5:30 we had core retail sales and retail sales and import prices for today. And during that particular point in time, right, they didn't necessarily love that news, and they kind of shot down and then right back up. And then going in the 6 o'clock hour, they kind of had rolled back over as they were waiting for the 6:15 news. 6:15 news, capacity utilization down a little bit, industrial production down. 7 o'clock came, no big deal here, but the housing market was down. Now tomorrow, let's just kind of look at tomorrow real quick, because the only fireworks we're liable to see is going to be at 5:30 tomorrow. We're going to see unemployment claims, right? Building permits and housing starts. All of those will be kind of gauges on the economy, the general economy. Philly Fed manufacturing index is narrowly based. So those are, some items. None of them are super hot. Employment claims usually, it's been pretty flat. It just, the economy just hasn't rolled over too terribly much, and there's still some life in it. So we'll see how that comes in tomorrow. But other than that, no big deal for tomorrow in terms of news. But maybe we'll get some, because of this news, maybe we'll get some reasonable volume, and it'll push the market around some in the morning. So with that being said, let's kind of go through. So here's that point where we were kind of selling off some before the open, right? And so here's the open, right? So it had popped up here. Here's the flexes and the EMA that is coming out of. As I was kind of going through this, some of these trades were maybe slightly more aggressive than I would like to be. And this is kind of one of them. This is the initial entry. This entry going into the fast zone, it had definitely taken out the rolling high, right? Definitely had already taken out the EMA, but selling right into the fast zone, and as you can see, it did kind of pull back. Was a little bit maybe too soon, and that's what I said when I took this trade. But anywhere, on the second attempt going back in through here would have been probably a little bit better, even though it was still kind of going into the fast zone. So this was one contract or one unit. This was the second unit there, and I was out, right here with room to spare. In fact, I even took another one At least I let it, made sure it's coming back to the EMA again, breaking back out of the fast zone, right? And it looked like it was going to go. And it's breaking again, it's with all the flexes, right? And us out again here before the 3-minute moving average, right? Came back to the EMA again, right? And back of the fast zone. This was good candle action here. See both of those, pretty good candle action. So I went in here and got out there. That might have been one of the trades that I didn't get a full 1.5 points on. But profits early, right? Pretty good profits early. Now here comes a trade, and so I'm definitely slowing down here because I'm into pretty good profits early. And this one was certainly one that I consider to be too aggressive. It's not oversold. We're a long way from the guide band. And I saw it maybe wanting to come back to the open, which ultimately it did. But it is with the flexes in the sense that it's under ultra, and fast flex had already turned down, but slow flex is still going up, right? So that's why, in my opinion, it's a little bit aggressive. Now, if slow flex had been anywhere around here, then this would have been, fine. But it had pretty good. The candles got me again, right? So I went short here, right? Pretty close to the low. Went short, came back up to the EMA, had some pretty good candle rejection. So this is the candle right here. This is the arrow right in that candle that I added to it. Didn't want to add to it again. Did not want to add to it again. It just came up into this 25% lower line again, and then came back down. And I was out prior to it breaking back down out of the rolling low. It even came down lower, right? It did ultimately. I was right. It did come back down and hit the close, which is what I wanted it to do there. But by adding to it, I got out earlier, and I added to profit, so I didn't want to take anything more, right? I gotten away with that, so I didn't want to take anything more. And in fact, I was up so much. I can't remember how much I was up at that point. I might have been up, probably was up at least 6 plus at that particular point in time. So I think I said, I'm just going to wait till after 7. But, some of these trades look pretty good. I just kind of committed to not trading until after 7, right? Good flex alignment all throughout here, right? This is a pretty big bar, right? And it came back. This may not be the accurate guide band, and the reason is because I accidentally recalculated something, and it recalculated everything. So this doesn't come from the 2-point chart. This is coming from the 5-second chart. So this is probably not exactly accurate. Everything else would be accurate, but the guide band would not be accurate, and I don't have volume point of control, so it doesn't calculate in reverse. So I pass on everything, right? So, in here would have been reasonable, and then, this is even an expansion here, maybe, right? It's a little bit aggressive, right? But so I passed on these things, right? Passed on all those things going into the coffee break time. You can see even here, right? So I passed on everything. Right, could have been up more. And here's 7 o'clock. And I was waiting on Financial Juice to give me the numbers. And for whatever reason today, Financial Juice was not timely at all. So it's already coming up. If I'd had the Financial Juice number, maybe it could have got a trade in there. And here's another one that, in my opinion, was too aggressive, right? So because I saw the expansion, right? Slow flex was still going up. Right, I was in the fast zone. It was running away from the EMA, so I went ahead and took the trade, but it wasn't quite ready yet, right? And so, because it was in the fast zone, I just really didn't want to add to it, so I never did. And it ended up just getting, I don't think I did anyway. I don't see any other errors. I ended up getting out up in here, right? So at that point, I'm probably up in the neighborhood of about 7 or so. And so again, I'm trying to go slower, but then again, I'm not necessarily, I kind of looked away, and I got into this trade late. I think somebody else said they got it in, somewhere more reasonable. That would have been a more reasonable spot to get in the trade. So I ended up getting into the trade too late. Luckily I'm on the right side of the market, right? The fast zone is moving down, EMA is moving down. I'm underneath all the flexes, so I'm on the right side of the market. I just had to manage this trade a little bit, so I had to add to it here. Maybe too soon, but I had a pretty good down candle here, but it ended up coming back to the EMA, and then I added to it, and I was out down here. Had a few extra ticks. I mean, it could have gotten the last one out at 74, and I was out by 75.50 ish or something like that, 74.75. Um, so so what I was going to say about this one is if you get in too late, for instance, if you get one of these, right, and it does immediately start to go in your way and or doesn't get you out, many times, and I don't know exactly what the statistics are, right, this could be, I mean, and like it was then, I mean, it even hit the minute average. This could be a little bit too early, right? Because letting it come back and hit the EMA, and you don't want to take trades significantly away from the EMA, is maybe better, right? Because if it had gone, I mean, this sucker, so here's 1 unit, here's 2 unit, now I'm into 3, right? And so if this one hadn't, and it's all, we're on the right, correct side of the market, but if this one hadn't come down ultimately over here, right, and for whatever reason wanted to go back up, for instance, you're into 2 units, and either jumping out and or reversing is going to make it a little bit more painful. So either don't add, let it come to, because it had plenty of room to come down here, right, to get you out. Ultimately, it got pretty close. Or if it does come back up to something that you want to add up in here, right? So because this unit didn't help me, it may help me a little bit, but not that much, right? So I could have added here and still gotten out, right, with only carrying 2 units instead of 3. Right, that's kind of the comment that I wanted to make on that trade. But I'm up, and up quite a bit. And so the next, let's see, I think at that point I'm probably up a little over 9. Yeah, because now I'm not paying attention as much. And then I take 2 more trades that I didn't even call, because at that point I'm up 9 in a little bit. So so this trade I took a little, could say, well, maybe it wasn't too late. I mean, so there and got out there. I mean, clearly it's on the correct side of the market, right? And it had broken down underneath the rolling low. So that one I'm kind of okay with, right? And it had lots of room, assuming that it eventually is going to come down to the all session low, and eventually it got really close. This one, and that one is the one that put me up. A little over 10, right? This one I'm less secure about it being a relatively good trade. Am I on the right side of the market? Yes, I'm on the right side of the market. And I wasn't quite paying attention. Maybe, maybe getting in a couple of ticks earlier would have been okay, right? It took into this range to get it underneath the Ultraflex, but this was a fairly good rejection up in here, right? Hit the EMA, hit the prior 3-minute close. It's hitting these linear regressions, right? The flexes, and pretty good bar. Now, if it had selling here, then it would have been a really good, decision. So some of these fast moves, right? It's going to take a minute for Ultraflex to get into sync with everything else. But anyway, I made it out, and I said, okay, well, at that point, I wasn't quite paying as much attention, so I decided to go ahead and quit with 11 1/4 points. But it's only 717. So let's just kind of take a look here, right? So from that point, getting close to the all session low, kind of a double bottom here, right? And it's kind of breaking out, right? So in here could have been somewhere in here. Some people like to take this, right, as it's breaking back over the EMA, right? And then this one would be okay as well, right? So there were some long trades available. Here, right, is not necessarily, this would have been a little bit aggressive, right, to take a short up in that time frame. Let's just say, so here's I'm done trading. I'm not even really barely looking at it. So it's going back up, right, getting some expansions, right. It's already tried to do the 5-minute once, twice, and then there's the blast. So there's potentially another long trade there. Now things are starting to look, kind of negative on the downside, right? So here through the EMA, really doesn't really go that far, right? So if you'd taken it off of the EMA, you would have been in the fast zone going into the 3-minute moving average and those sorts of things. So that probably would have been a reasonable thing to pass on, right? Ultimately you would have been okay, right? This is not none of this is a good long entry, right? Slow flex is going down. It did kind of cross, but slow flex is still kind of coming down, coming back into resistance area. So ultimately it would have worked even if you'd gotten a bad entry, right? And you would have even had to add it to it, even though it gave you opportunities, right? So here's that nice rolling over that we want to take a look at. Slow, fast, ultra is ultra is kind of going right down through there, right? So kind of coming down. That would have been a good trade. So you don't have to be quite as aggressive as I am sometimes because there's still more trades available that come along. Here we're back underneath the fast flex. Everything is kind of going down. So just waiting for these little pullbacks, right? And then short entries. This is getting a little bit sketchy down in here. I don't really like to necessarily trade multiple times into the all session low, just waiting for it to turn around. There's the 8 o'clock hour, right? And that's where it's trying to turn around. Some people might take this for a point, right? That would have been kind of a counter trend because it is kind of the fast zone is moving down, and at that point, it's really not doing too much, right? So the market has already started to slow down at that particular point in time. These aren't necessarily bad alignments to the short side, but it's still going into the bottom of the fast zone. So I mean, at this particular point in time, unless and market's really not doing too much, right? So if anything, you're probably just going to take 1-point trades. Then you get a couple of really big bars, right? So if you're in that short trade, you better close or something. And then here's a couple of better looking longs, right? So now the market's turned around. 3-minute moving average hit again, and it's breaking through, right? So there's 1, 2, 830. Now we're back above the 25% upper line, and your call, right? But I mean, as you can see, we probably had another 6 trades, and that's just an example. 6 trades that might have been available if you'd really wanted to trade more. And not that I did, because I was already up way more than I needed. But again, like I was saying this morning, I'm trying to get even more patient and waiting on these flexes and not chasing. There's a couple of those things today that I was late on because I wasn't looking at it tightly enough, or I got kind of too comfortable with being up quite a bit, but then my finger took over, which means I was a little bit slow. All right, so that was sort of it. Any questions on that? I looked at on the multi-charts update question. I did look at their website, and I went through some of the changes. Of course, they don't give you the exact detail of the change, just the nature of the change. I do think there's a couple of things in there that might be, we'll probably would never see it, but there might be some things that are interesting to us. And so like I was saying this morning, I would not update yet, right? And I'm not going to update real soon either, but I will update and let you know how it goes. So sometimes they inadvertently introduce some bugs with these new releases that they have to figure out. So I'm going to give them a little while, and I'll look at the website, see if anybody is reporting problems. Then I'll update it and let you know what my experience is. But there did seem to be a couple of things in there, maybe for some speed enhancement, maybe, right? Chart speed enhancement. And there was one new feature off of File that said, File Save All Workspaces, instead of just File Save Workspaces. I'm not sure if that works across all desktops or not, but we'll see. So I would hold off. Always be patient on new updates, especially since we don't have any problems, right? We should be patient. Anything else? Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. We'll see you soon in the support session and or the trading room when you can. All right. Thanks. Good night.